This is the Jeff McARTHUR Show on Talk Radio, AM640.
Okay, my thanks to Richard Surrett for kicking off the show this afternoon. I like Richard a lot, even though he and I don't agree on UFOs. Man, is he ever a good storyteller. I had no idea, though, as you mentioned, that Hillary Clinton has been talking UFOs on the campaign trail. I maybe had missed that or something, but I'll tell you what I do know. She seems to be running against a guy who at times looks like he's from another planet.
That is absolutely true.
Anyways, we got a big press conference a couple hours ago from the feds. They announcing that they're going to launch a task force to study the legalization and regulation of marijuana use. And they also, in this press conference, committed to introducing legislation on the legalization of pot by the spring of 2017, so roughly a year from now. Here with his thoughts and views on that is the Prince of Pot. Marc Emery joins us here on Talk Radio, AM640. Marc, good afternoon. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. And thank you for having me on.
All right. This task force apparently is going to be made up of experts in public health, substance abuse, law enforcement, and justice. I'm kind of missing like civilians or citizens here. Are people such as yourself going to be able to voice your opinion?
Well, we might be able to voice our opinion, but it won't matter. There's nobody from the BC or Canadian, Civil Liberties Union. There are no lawyers from the defense up there. There's clearly nobody who's ever smoked pot on this panel, right? These aren't pot smokers. And so here they are going to draft legislation about who can grow it, who can sell it, how it's to be consumed, and et cetera, et cetera. And none of them are part of our culture. It's like being treated like a child. We're children. We can't be trusted to run our own affairs, so the government's going to have to step in and regulate our existence for us, even though we've been growing marijuana for 45 years, the world's most esteemed marijuana, and we've got it all figured out. We don't need to reinvent our industry. We just need to be called legal instead of illegal.
All right, so you would call today's announcement of this task force, to put it mildly, disappointing?
Well, there's one really good person on the task force, and that's Susan Boyd. She's written books. She's a criminologist. She's highly sympathetic to our point of view. I'm in a lot of her last book, where she treats me quite sympathetically. So I do know there's going to be somebody on the task force that has our point of view in there. But the thing is, it's all unnecessary. They've been wrong for 48 years. 2 million Canadians have been given criminal records. Hundreds of thousands of us, like myself, have gone to jail. I went to jail for 3 months for just passing one joint once. So this country's always had absurd policies on marijuana, and now we're about to get it right. And all we need to do is one thing: take marijuana out of this controlled drugs and substances schedule. And that's it. It takes you all of 10 seconds, and there doesn't need to be any committees. There doesn't need to be anything. And then the provinces can regulate it as they see fit. And we would end up with stores like my store in Cannabis Culture selling to all Canadians 19 years of age and older, as it should be. That's exactly what legalization looks like.
All right. If it's that simple, why is there all this consternation? Why is there all this talk, this debate, and this study that needs to happen?
Well, because everybody in charge of legalization were the same people in charge of prohibition. Because the voters want legalization, because it's unavoidable, because it's going to happen everywhere around the world. Canada can't be that far left behind. But everybody in charge of this legalization, Anne McClellan, Bill Blair, these are all the people that were persecuting us. Bill Blair increased the number of people charged for marijuana in this city by 3 times in the time when he was the police chief. Anne McClellan called marijuana a scourge on society. That's worse than just dangerous or hazardous. That's like a bane or a doom or some curse, right? So these are marijuana haters in charge of legalizing marijuana. So do marijuana people think they're going to get treated fairly? No, we do not. Should we go ahead and do what we think is right and make the landscape reflect our view? Yes, we should. And that is what I am doing today, because that is the only guarantee we have that it'll be done right.
All right. And what are you doing today and moving forward if you don't have a seat at the table at this task force?
Well, we're just going to keep opening stores. We have 5 now, and we hope to have 200 by the end of next year all across Canada. Franchises where ordinary Canadians who have a passion for marijuana can sell to their community 19 years of age and older, just like it should have been for the last 50 years. All
right. The Justice Minister did mention in her comments today that it still remains illegal marijuana, and obviously she was referencing the crackdown and the raids that have happened, particularly here in the GTA in Toronto. Yes. So you're set to continue to fly in the face of the law?
Well, where does she expect the millions of Canadians who smoke marijuana to get it? This is the incredible naivete of our politicians. We've been illegal and going underground for 48 years, but what's right about that? That was a wrong government policy that forced us to be second-class citizens, to skulk and hide, to buy our weed from back alleys. It's been ridiculous. It's the government's fault it's been like that. So should we look to the government to liberate us? No, we should not. We should look to ourselves, and we will liberate ourselves, and we will set the landscape, because the government has never been our friend in this regard.
All right, but does the government not have some sort of role to play here, Mark? I mean, when we look at marijuana, it is a drug after all, and is there
not a drug. It's not a drug. It's a plant. It's not a drug. A drug is a chemical formulation. All pharmaceuticals are drugs, but marijuana is not a drug. Marijuana can be compared to cucumbers. It can be compared to coffee. It can even be compared to flowers, but it cannot possibly be compared to a drug.
But marijuana does alter my state a lot more than cucumbers, no?
It doesn't impair you, though. People have this false impression that marijuana is bad for you, marijuana is hazardous or harmful. That is not correct. It will not harm you. It will not make you. It will make you a better driver. It will make you a better parent. It will make you a better lover. It will make you a better person. It does not impair you. It creates no harm. And until people understand that, if they keep treating it like a drug, they just simply don't get it, and they don't understand us. And we're not going to tolerate rules put on us by people who don't understand pot and don't smoke it.
Okay, because one of the things I was going to ask you, and maybe one of the things this task force wants to or needs to study, particularly when we look at the law enforcement and justice part of this, is those that might toke and get behind the wheel, and should there be a threshold or limit just like alcohol?
I've driven behind the wheel smoking pot every day of my life on road trips in cities everywhere. I've never had an accident, and I've been driving since I was 16, and I'm 58 now. So the math there is 43 years of driving, I believe that is. Never had an accident, and I've smoked pot every day for the last 31 of them, including when I drive.
All right, so is your argument that that kind of sharpens your awareness of pot does when you're behind the wheel?
Well, see, what you didn't ask me is, why do people smoke marijuana? We smoke marijuana to make ourselves more self-aware. We like to be more in touch with our environment, more in touch with our feelings, more in touch with our senses. That's what marijuana helps us do. Otherwise, why would we do this? So when we're driving and we've smoked marijuana, we become more attenuated to the fact we have passengers, that we should go the speed limit, that we're not in a rush to get where we're going. We don't bother going into the passing lane when we're high because we're enjoying the drive. Normally, people are so anxious to get to a place, they'll do anything. They'll get mad, they'll get angry, they speed, they pass, they do crazy things. They're irritable and they're miserable and they're trying to get somewhere. Hot people aren't like that. We're not in a rush. We're not going to get upset. We don't get road rage ever.
Okay, if you're not in a rush, why are we in a rush to get these stores up and not wait till the process is done and legalization becomes official?
Well, that was an interesting segue you made from not rushing in your car to rushing the whole legalization platform.
Thank you.
But if people like me don't do it, we will get told how it's going to be done. And you know what? That's just not us. Cannabis culture in this country has had to resist and fight the government and battle them for 45 years. They've victimized us. They've hurt us. They've harmed us. They've used our own money against us to take away our kids, get us fired, make us all these bad, terrible things government has done for the last 50 years. They owe us an apology before they ever begin to start telling us how it's going to be. So if we're not getting the apology, we can't even talk to them.
Yeah, just finally, do you believe this task force is the first step, or just, I guess, maybe even the next step towards, blocking you and others such as yourself out of the legalization of marijuana, that this is going to be something that is government-controlled and the distribution will be akin to the LCBO?
I would like to be wrong, but I think this task force will be irrelevant, that nothing they come up with or see or do will have any impact, and that the government's already made up its mind how it's going to be. I really believe that. I believe that it's going to be their cronies, the license providers, people in big business, people with connections, Liquor Control Board of Ontario, all these kind of things that the cannabis culture would never ordinarily agree to. We don't want to buy our pot at a Liquor Control Board outlet, nor a pharmacy unless it's a strictly medical regime. But ordinary Canadians just want to buy pot from the people who love pot, the people who love growing pot, and have stores in Main Street in every town in Canada. That's just the way you buy everything else, and that's how we want to buy our pot.
All right. Marc Emery. Marc, appreciate the time. Good discussion as always, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
All right. There goes Marc Emery, Canada's